Hello, I am going to explain and show you today how to differentiate for learning styles in everyday reading mini lessons. I'm going to start with an example of a mini lesson planning sheet and a mini lesson that you would do in a first grade classroom during reading time. This mini lesson is about readers retelling and including important events. This first mini lesson I'm going to go over with you is differentiated, but not to the full extent that it could be to provide greater accessibility for different learning styles. So I'd begin with saying, girls and boys, we're going to start talking about something very important this week in Reader's Workshop, retelling what we read. Whenever we do a small moment in writing, we are retelling a story that has happened to us. Today, I want to teach you how to retell and include the important events from the story you are reading. Then I'll be moving on to my teaching point. Watch me as I retell the story I am reading. Now, during this time, I will be looking at a book and retelling the story, including only the important events for the students. I'll be referring once or twice to pictures, but I'll be focusing on the important events. Then I'll ask students, did you notice that I only told the important parts of the story? Did you see how I told you some important things from the beginning, middle, and end? Now it's your turn to try. So now I'm going to get students turning to their partners that are beside them, and I'm going to have them try to retell a story, including only important events. So, boys and girls, we have read the book The Very Hungry Caterpillar before. When I say go, I want you to turn to your partner and work with them to retell the story. Remember to include the important events in the story. So as the students are retelling to one another, I'm going to be listening in to the retellings and assisting as needed with any corrections or needing to help any students. Then I'm going to gather them back to their seats and say, I heard smart work as people were retelling. They weren't telling every single thing, but were just telling the important parts, making sure to include events from the beginning, middle, and end of the book. Now, as I would every other mini lesson, I'm going to link it and I'll be saying, so today and every day that you read, I want you to remember that when you retell, you include the important events from the story. Now, during reading workshop, as it's going on, I'll be walking around, listening, helping students out who might need a little extra assistance with this, and I'll stop them and I'll be telling them, you know, if you're doing quiet retellings to yourself, don't forget to include only the important events from the story. And following reading workshop, as we do every day, I would have students give me a thumbs up if you did a retelling to yourself or to your partner today. Give me 2 thumbs up if you remembered to include only the important events in your retellings. Great! I hope you will remember to do that every day. So that would conclude my mini lesson. Some of the important things I kind of want to go over here that this lesson does do as far as differentiating for different learning styles. It does do some specific modeling with a book. The teaching point that I do here, I am physically looking at a book and modeling to students. So for my visual learners, they can actually see me doing what I'm talking about doing. For the active engagement part, it's a chance for students to talk so they don't have to sit there and be quiet. So my wiggly students have an opportunity to move. It gets them interacting. I'm asking questions, making them kind of think a little more actively. Let's see. And during the teaching share, again, the students are able to interact by giving me a quiet thumbs up. So it's a little more that kinesthetic. Not a whole lot, but I would say a little there. So now I'm going to go through this same planning sheet with the same objective for readers to retell and include important events. But this time, as you can see, I've highlighted in yellow some really easy additions to the lesson that make it a lot more accessible for different learning styles. And I'll talk about those at the end. So in the first part here, when we're talking about connections for the students, I'm going to not only tell the kids what we're doing today, but I'm also going to write up on either a board or chart paper. I'm going to write the words retell important events. And this is going to give my visual learners the opportunity to see for their own eyes what we're doing today, not just hear it like in the previous lesson. As we get down to the teaching point this time, I'm not only going to model, as I did in the previous lesson, but I have a lot of wiggly students. This time, I'm going to call on some students to stand up and tell me something that I retold in the example that I gave. So they're able to get up and move around. They're able to talk a little more this time. I'm also going to have the students move 3 places to their right to get with a partner for a practice. Again, this is letting those kinesthetic learners get up, move their body. My wiggly kids can get up and move their body to get to their partners. During the active engagement, again, my kinesthetic and visual learners, I'm going to ask some students to come up to the chart paper and draw a picture of what I was describing that happened at the beginning of the story, or the middle or the end. And I'm going to have them do that with what they shared with their partner. I'm going to ask some students to come to the board and write a word or two that they used in retelling with their partners. And not only is this good for my visual and kinesthetic learners, but it's also allowing some of my higher academically performing students the ability to come up and write some words that maybe some of the other first graders aren't able to do, but they could do some pictures certainly. But so it also gives that that boost to the students who are ready for that as well. And again, so all of the students are able to see it up there. They're hearing me say it, but they can also see it visually with words and pictures. And then lastly, with the link, I'm offering students the opportunity to be able to make a list or draw a quick sketch of the story if it helps them remember what happened in their story and how to retell. I'm going to refer to the chart that we've all made together, the pictures and the words that are used on the chart, to emphasize how you can use that to remember how to retell and include important events. And I think this is really important, especially for first graders who sometimes have difficulty expressing themselves verbally, especially with partners. Partner work is really hard. So I think giving them the opportunity to make a list or a sketch of the story allows, again, kinesthetic or visual learners that opportunity to display what they've learned if it's a little harder for them just to keep up in their head. So I hope this was informative and will help you in your future lessons. Thanks.